The house smelled different when I walked through the door. Not bad exactly, just unfamiliar, like someone else had been living there while I was gone. I set my duffel bag down in the hallway and listened to the silence press against my ears. 6 months in the desert, dreaming of this moment, and now that I was here, something felt wrong. Leah appeared from the bedroom, wearing a dress I didn't recognize. Her smile was tight, rehearsed. When I reached for her, she turned her cheek instead of her lips. "You must be exhausted," she said, stepping back. "I made up the guest room. Thought you might want space to decompress." Space. After half a year apart, she wanted space. I didn't argue. I'd learned patience in the service. Sometimes you wait, watch, and let the enemy reveal themselves. I showered, unpacked, and tried to ignore the knot tightening in my chest. That night, she slept in our bedroom. I slept alone. The next morning I found it. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just threw away my coffee cup in the bathroom trash. That's when I saw the box, shoved beneath tissues and cotton balls. A pregnancy test. I pulled it out carefully, like it might explode. 2 pink lines stared back at me, clear as day. My hands started shaking, not from shock, from the math. 6 months deployed. No leave, no visits. We hadn't touched each other since the night before I left, and even that had been strained, forgettable. My mind raced through every possible explanation, landing on the only one that made sense, the one I didn't want to believe. I heard her footsteps in the hallway. Quick, I buried the test back where I found it and stepped into the shower, letting the water drown out the sound of my breathing. When I came out, she was standing by the sink, touching up her makeup. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice level. "I saw something in the trash. A pregnancy test?" Her hand froze mid-stroke with the mascara wand. For just a second, I saw fear flicker across her face. Then she laughed, too loud, too forced. "Oh, that. My friend Jessica left it here last week. She was freaking out, didn't want to take it at home. False alarm, thank God." I nodded slowly. "Jessica, huh? That's good. She must be relieved." "Yeah, totally." Leah capped the mascara and kissed my cheek. "I've got to run. Meeting some friends for brunch. You okay here?" "I'm fine," I lied. After she left, I went straight to our laptop, logged into our joint bank account, something I'd set up before deploying so she could handle bills while I was gone. I scrolled through recent transactions, looking for anything unusual. There it was, CVS Pharmacy, the day before I came home, purchased with our shared credit card. 1 pregnancy test, bought by my wife, hours before my return. My name is Marcus Darnell Hayes, and this is my story. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment with the city you're watching from. I sat there staring at that transaction for a long time. Jessica hadn't bought that test. Leah had, and she'd lied about it to my face without even blinking. That told me everything I needed to know about where we stood now. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was an obstacle. I closed the laptop and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The man looking back had aged in 6 months. Harder eyes, deeper lines. I'd survived firefights and sandstorms. I'd led men through hell and brought them home. I wasn't about to let my own wife make a fool of me. But I wasn't going to confront her either. Not yet. Confrontation was for amateurs, for men who let emotion cloud their judgment. I was going to do what I did best. I was going to gather intelligence, build a case, and when the time was right, I was going to execute a plan so clean she wouldn't know what hit her until it was over. That night, when Leah came home smelling like wine and wearing fresh lipstick, I smiled at her, asked about her day, told her I was glad to be home. She seemed relieved, like she'd been expecting a fight. She had no idea the fight was already over. She just didn't know she'd lost yet. I woke up early the next morning, years of military training refusing to let me sleep past dawn. Leah was still asleep, curled on the far edge of our king-sized bed, as far from my side as physics would allow. I got dressed quietly and went downstairs, moving through a house that should have felt like home, but instead felt like a crime scene. Everything looked normal at first glance. Clean counters, fresh flowers on the table, mail stacked neatly by the door. But I'd been trained to notice what didn't belong, and within minutes, I started seeing the cracks. There was a coffee mug in the sink, still stained with lipstick, but not Leah's usual shade. This was darker, almost burgundy. I opened the dishwasher and found 2 wine glasses, both with traces of red wine at the bottom. Leah didn't drink red wine. It gave her migraines. She'd told me that 100 times. I moved through the living room, scanning like I was clearing a building. Everything was too perfect, too staged. The throw pillows were arranged with military precision. The remote controls were lined up on the coffee table. Leah was messy by nature. This kind of order only came from someone trying to hide something. Then I saw it. On the armchair by the window, barely visible, there was a single dark hair on the headrest. Short, coarse, not mine, not Leah's. I plucked it carefully, held it up to the light. Male, probably. I folded it into a tissue and slipped it into my pocket. I headed to the laundry room, and that's where things got interesting. On top of the washing machine, folded and stacked, were several items that made my blood run cold. A men's t-shirt, size large, expensive brand, a pair of boxer briefs that weren't mine, and underneath, a dress shirt with French cuffs, the kind you wear to impress someone. I checked the tags, all new or nearly new, all cleaned and folded like they belonged here. Like someone had been comfortable enough in my house to leave their clothes behind and expect them to be laundered. The rage that hit me was sharp and immediate, but I forced it down. Anger was useless. Anger made you stupid. I took photos of everything with my phone, careful to capture the brands and sizes. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. When Leah came downstairs around 10, she found me drinking coffee and reading the newspaper like nothing was wrong. "Morning," she said, pouring herself orange juice. "Sleep okay?" "Like a baby," I said. "You?" "Fine." She sat across from me, scrolling through her phone. "I've got errands to run today. Grocery store, dry cleaning, that kind of thing." "Want company?" I offered. "No. Too fast." She caught herself and softened her tone. "I mean, you just got back. You should rest. Adjust. I'll be quick." "Sure thing." After she left, I went upstairs to our bedroom and started a systematic search. Not tearing the place apart. That would tip her off. Just careful, methodical reconnaissance. I checked drawers, closets, under the bed. In her nightstand, tucked beneath a stack of magazines, I found a receipt from a restaurant in Charleston. Dated from last month. Dinner for 2. Expensive wine. Appetizers. Dessert. The bill was over $200. We'd never been to that restaurant together. I'd never even heard of it. But what caught my attention was the signature at the bottom. The receipt had been paid with a credit card, and there was a tip line with a handwritten amount. The handwriting wasn't Leah's. It was masculine, confident. Someone had paid for my wife's dinner while I was overseas, and she'd kept the receipt like a souvenir. I photographed it and kept digging. In the back of her closet, I found a shoebox I'd never seen before. Inside were ticket stubs from movies, concerts, a jazz club downtown, all dated during my deployment. All for 2 people. Leah had been living a whole separate life while I was gone, and whoever she'd been living it with had been wearing expensive clothes, leaving them at my house, and taking her to places I couldn't afford on a sergeant's salary. That afternoon, I went out to the garage to check on my truck. I'd left it parked there before deployment, covered with a tarp. When I pulled the cover off, I noticed something strange. The passenger seat was adjusted forward, pushed up close to the dashboard. I always kept it pushed back, even when I wasn't using it. Someone had been sitting there, someone shorter than me. I checked the mileage. When I'd left, the odometer read 47,382. Now it read 51,619. Over 4,000 miles in 6 months. Leah had told me she barely drove it, that she preferred her own car. So where had my truck been going? I opened the glove compartment and found a parking receipt from a hotel in Hilton Head, dated from the middle of my deployment. Overnight parking. Piece by piece, the picture was coming together. And the man in that picture wasn't me. I didn't sleep much that night. Leah had come home late from her errands, carrying grocery bags filled with ingredients for meals she'd never cooked before. She seemed nervous, kept checking her phone, jumping at small sounds. I pretended not to notice, played the part of the tired soldier grateful to be home. Around 2 a.m, I heard it. The soft click of the front gate latch, then the quiet purr of an engine in our driveway. I was out of bed in seconds, moving to the window without making a sound. Through the curtains, I saw headlights cutting through the darkness, a vehicle pulling up next to Leah's car. My heart hammered against my ribs. I waited, barely breathing, watching the lights click off. The driver's door opened, but the dome light didn't come on. Whoever this was knew to disable it. Smart. Cautious. The silhouette of a man emerged, tall and broad-shouldered, moving toward our front porch with familiar confidence. I heard Leah's footsteps in the hallway, quick and light. She was already awake, already expecting him. The front door opened and closed in less than 5 seconds. Voices, low and urgent, drifted up through the vents. I couldn't make out words, but I recognized the tone. Intimacy, familiarity, fear. I moved to the bedroom door, opened it a crack. Downstairs I could hear Leah whispering harshly, "You can't keep coming here. He's home now." I know. I just needed to see you. Make sure you're okay." That voice. I knew that voice. It took me a second to place it, and when I did, my stomach dropped. Ryan Cleaver, Staff Sergeant Ryan Cleaver from my own unit. A guy I'd served with for 3 years. A guy I'd trusted with my life. "I'm fine," Leah hissed. "But you need to leave, now. Leah, we need to talk about this." About the baby. The baby. There it was. Confirmation, wrapped in a bow. "Not here. Not now. I'll text you tomorrow." "When are you going to tell him?" "I don't know. I need time to figure this out." Footsteps moved toward the door. I slipped back into the guest room, positioned myself by the window again. Moments later, Ryan emerged from the house, Leah close behind him. They stood on the porch, lit by the yellow glow of the motion sensor light. He reached for her, pulled her close. She let him. They kissed. Long, desperate, the kind of kiss you give someone when you think it might be your last. When they finally broke apart, I saw Leah's face clearly. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't torn. She was in love with him. Ryan got back in his car, a black Dodge Charger with tinted windows, and backed out of the driveway. Leah stood there watching until the taillights disappeared, then wrapped her arms around herself and went back inside. I waited until I heard her bedroom door close before I moved. My hands were steady as I pulled out my phone and opened the security camera app. We'd installed cameras around the house before I deployed, mostly for Leah's peace of mind. She'd insisted on it, said she'd feel safer. I scrolled back through the footage, watching the night's events play out in grainy black and white. The car pulling in, Ryan getting out, the embrace on the porch. I downloaded the video file, saved it to 3 different locations. Then I kept scrolling backward, checking other nights. There were more visits. Many more. Ryan's Charger showed up in our driveway at least once a week during my deployment, sometimes staying for hours, sometimes just for quick visits. And Leah was always waiting, always ready to let him in. I checked the daytime footage too, found clips of them leaving together in her car, coming back hours later. Found one particularly damning video from a month ago where they'd pulled into the driveway together in broad daylight, laughing, his hand on her thigh as they got out of the car. The sun was starting to rise when I finished documenting everything. I had dozens of video files now, time-stamped and dated, showing a pattern of behavior that went back months. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a relationship. That morning, when Leah came downstairs, I was already dressed and making breakfast. "You're up early," she said, surprised. "Old habits," I replied, flipping pancakes. "Heard some noise last night. Car in the driveway around 2. You hear anything?" Her face went pale. "No, nothing. Probably just the neighbors." "Probably," I agreed, sliding pancakes onto a plate and handing it to her. "Mr. Richardson next door, maybe. Though I thought I saw a black Charger. He drives a Civic, doesn't he?" "I don't know what the neighbors drive," she said quickly, too quickly. I was asleep. "Right." I smiled at her, warm and trusting. "Must have been dreaming." She relaxed slightly, convinced I was just confused, convinced she was still in control. She had no idea I'd already watched her lies play out in high definition. Leah's younger sister, Megan, showed up unannounced on Sunday afternoon with a casserole and an expression that looked like she'd just watched a puppy get hit by a car. The pity in her eyes when she looked at me was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. "Marcus," she said, pulling me into a hug that lasted too long. "It's so good to see you home safe. We were all so worried." "Appreciate that," I said, stepping back. "Come on in. Leah's upstairs." Megan set the casserole on the kitchen counter and busied herself with unnecessary tasks, rearranging things that didn't need rearranging. I recognized the behavior. She was stalling, working up the courage to say something. "How are you doing?" she asked finally, not meeting my eyes. "Really doing, I mean. Adjusting, okay?" "I'm good, glad to be home." "And you and Leah? Everything's good there?" There it was. The question she actually wanted to ask. Why wouldn't it be? I kept my voice light, curious. "No reason. I just, 6 months is a long time. A lot can change." She was picking at her fingernails now, a nervous habit from childhood. People can change. Before I could press her, Leah appeared in the doorway, and Megan's whole demeanor shifted. The nervous energy disappeared, replaced by forced cheerfulness. "Meg, hey. I didn't know you were coming over. Just wanted to bring you guys some food. Thought you could use a home-cooked meal." The three of us made awkward small talk for a while, dancing around something none of us were saying. Finally, Leah excused herself to take a phone call, leaving Megan and me alone in the kitchen. "She seems stressed," I said casually, loading the dishwasher. Megan's hands went still. "She's been dealing with a lot." "Yeah? Like what?" "Just life stuff. You know how it is." She paused, then added quietly, "She's been carrying a lot of guilt lately." I stopped loading dishes and turned to face her. "Guilt about what?" Megan's eyes went wide, like she'd just realized what she'd said. "Nothing. I just meant, general stress. Being alone while you were gone. Normal stuff. Megan." I kept my voice gentle but firm. "If something's going on, I need to know. If Leah's in trouble, or if someone's bothering her." "It's not like that," Megan interrupted, then caught herself. "I mean, there's nothing. I'm just tired, not thinking straight." But I could see it in her face. She knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to feel sorry for me. Enough to struggle with whether or not to tell me the truth. "Has she been seeing someone?" I asked directly. "Another man?" Megan's face crumbled. She looked toward the stairs, making sure Leah was still on her phone call, then whispered, "I can't do this. It's not my place." "But there is someone." She closed her eyes, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. "She's my sister, Marcus. I can't betray her." "She's my wife," I said quietly. "And I think she already betrayed me." We stood there in tense silence. Finally, Megan pulled out her phone, typed something quickly, and showed me the screen. A text conversation between her and Leah from last month. "Megan, you need to stop this before Marcus gets home. It's wrong." Leah, "I know, but I can't. I love him." Megan, "You love Marcus, remember? Your husband?" Leah, "It's not that simple anymore. I read it twice, memorizing every word, then pulled out my own phone and took a photo of her screen before she could pull it away. "Marcus, you can't—" "I'm not going to confront her," I said calmly. "Not yet, but I need evidence. I need to know what I'm dealing with." Megan wiped her eyes. "She's pregnant, Marcus. That's why she's so stressed. She doesn't know what to do. The baby isn't mine." It wasn't a question, but Megan nodded anyway, confirming what I already knew. "She's scared," Megan whispered. "She knows she messed up. She knows she's going to lose everything." "Who is he?" "I don't know." "She won't tell me. Just said he's someone you know, someone from work." "From work." That narrowed it down, but not enough, though I already had my suspicions. Leah's footsteps sounded on the stairs. Megan quickly composed herself, plastering on a fake smile. "Everything okay?" Leah asked, looking between us. "Perfect," I said, matching her smile. "Megan was just telling me about her new job. Sounds exciting." Megan nodded quickly, playing along. "Yeah, it's great. Anyway, I should get going." "You guys enjoy the casserole." After she left, I found her text message in my phone. She'd sent it while I was walking her out. "Megan, I'm sorry I can't tell you more, but check her iCloud. She thinks she deleted everything, but backup might still have it. Password is your anniversary. And Marcus, be careful. She's not the person you remember." That night, after Leah went to bed, I sat in the dark living room with my laptop open, staring at the iCloud login screen. My anniversary. I typed it in, and just like that, I was inside my wife's digital life. She had deleted messages, just like Megan said, but the backup was still there, waiting to tell me everything I needed to know. The thing about people who cheat is they always think they're smarter than they are. They delete texts, clear browser histories, turn off location services. But they forget that the internet remembers everything. Cloud backups, location data, metadata embedded in photos. Digital breadcrumbs that lead straight back to the truth. I started with Leah's message backup. The interface loaded slowly, month by month, conversation by conversation. Most of it was mundane. Messages to her mother, group chats with friends, spam from stores. But then I found a deleted thread with no name, just a phone number. The messages only went back 4 months, but they told me everything. The early messages were innocent enough. Jokes, memes, friendly banter. Then they shifted. Compliments became flirtation. Flirtation became confession. Unknown. I can't stop thinking about you. Leah, this is wrong. We both know it. Unknown. Wrong never felt so right. I felt sick reading it, but I kept scrolling. The messages got bolder, more explicit. Plans to meet. Descriptions of what they'd done together. Things she'd never done with me, at least not in years. And then, around the time I was 3 months into deployment, Leah, I'm late. Unknown. Late for what? Leah. My period. I'm late. I think I might be pregnant. Unknown. Are you sure it's not his? Leah. We haven't been together in months. It's yours. It has to be. Unknown. Okay. Let's not panic. We'll figure this out. But they hadn't figured it out. The messages stopped abruptly after that. The conversation thread ending with Leah saying she needed time to think. Either they'd moved to a different platform, or they'd started meeting in person exclusively. I copied the phone number into a separate document and moved on to the next piece of evidence. Location services. Leah thought she'd turned it off, but her iPad was still synced to the same iCloud account, and it had been tracking her movements all along. I pulled up the timeline and started scrolling through the past 6 months. Most of her locations made sense: the grocery store, the gym, her mother's house. But there were outliers. Places she'd been multiple times that had no obvious explanation. A motel on the outskirts of town. She'd been there 7 times during my deployment, always on weekday afternoons, always staying between 2 and 4 hours. An apartment complex in the nicer part of Savannah. She'd visited regularly, sometimes staying overnight. A restaurant in Charleston, the same one from the receipt I'd found. She'd been there twice. And then there was the location history from the week before I came home. She'd gone to the motel 3 times in 5 days. The last visit was the day before my flight landed. She'd been there for 6 hours. I took screenshots of everything, documenting the pattern. Then I cross-referenced the dates with Ryan's deployment schedule. He'd been stateside the entire time I was gone, working at the base. The dates lined up perfectly. Every time Leah visited that motel, Ryan had been off duty. But I needed more than circumstantial evidence. I needed proof that would hold up in court, that would leave no room for doubt or excuses. So I kept digging. Leah's photo stream was my next stop. Again, she'd deleted most of the compromising pictures, but the backup had saved lower resolution versions. I found them buried in a folder marked Archive. Pictures of her and Ryan together, at restaurants, at the beach, in hotel rooms, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Both of them smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. One photo made me pause. It was recent, maybe from last month. Leah was lying in bed, sheets pulled up to her chest, hair messy, glowing, and in the corner of the frame, barely visible, was Ryan's hand on her bare shoulder. The metadata showed it was taken at 9 in the morning on a Wednesday, a day I'd been under fire in a desert 8,000 miles away. I closed my eyes and counted to 10, forcing the rage back down. Emotion wouldn't help me now. Evidence would. I moved on to her email, found confirmations for hotel bookings, dinner reservations, even a weekend trip to Charleston I knew nothing about. She'd paid for everything with her personal credit card, the one I didn't have access to. Smart. Except she'd forgotten that the confirmation emails all went to the same shared iCloud account. And then I found something that changed everything. An email from a lawyer's office, sent 2 weeks before I came home. The subject line read, "Initial consultation confirmation." I opened it. Leah had scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney. The appointment was set for next month, right around the time my promotion bonus was supposed to hit our account. The email even mentioned she'd need to bring documentation of our shared assets and my military benefits. She wasn't planning to confess. She wasn't planning to work things out. She was planning to wait until I got my promotion, until the money was in our account, and then she was going to leave me. Take half of everything I'd worked for and run off with Ryan. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just an affair. This was a calculated plan to destroy me and profit from it. I saved everything. Downloaded every message, every photo, every location pin, every email. Created a folder on an encrypted drive and backed it up to 3 different cloud services. Then I did something Leah had forgotten to do. I covered my tracks. Cleared my browser history, logged out of her iCloud, made it look like I'd never been there at all. When I finally went to bed, the sun was coming up. Leah was still asleep, peaceful and unaware. I lay down next to her and stared at the ceiling, my mind working through scenarios and possibilities. She'd made her choice. Now it was time to make mine. Confirming the phone number took me less than an hour. I called it from a burner phone I'd picked up at the convenience store, disguising my voice and asking for Ryan. The woman who answered, his wife, I assumed, told me he was at work and asked who was calling. I hung up without answering. Ryan Cleaver. Staff Sergeant Ryan Cleaver. We'd gone through advanced training together, pulled guard duty on the same shifts, gotten drunk at the same promotion parties. I'd been to his wedding. Met his wife, Amber, a sweet woman who worked as a nurse at the VA hospital. They had 2 kids, both under 5. And now he was sleeping with my wife, carrying on an affair while I was in combat, using my deployment as an opportunity to move in on my marriage. I sat in my truck outside the base, watching soldiers come and go, waiting for Ryan to appear. I'd checked the duty roster. He was working an early shift, set to get off around noon. At 11:45, I saw him walk out of the operations building, laughing with another sergeant, looking like he didn't have a care in the world. He'd put on weight since I'd last seen him. Not much, but enough to notice. His uniform was crisp, his boots polished. He looked good, successful, like a man who was winning at life. I watched him get into his Charger, the same one I'd seen on my security footage, and drive off base. I didn't follow him. Not yet. I was still in intelligence gathering mode, still building my case. But watching him drive away, knowing what I knew, made my blood boil. That evening, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Marcus Hayes?" A woman's voice, tense and urgent. "Who's asking?" "My name is Amber Cleaver, Ryan's wife." Pause. "I think we need to talk." My heart started pounding. "About what?" "About my husband and your wife." Her voice cracked. "I found messages on his phone. I know what's been going on. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. Neutral territory. When I walked in, I spotted her immediately, sitting in the back corner, sunglasses on despite being indoors, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she wasn't drinking. I sat down across from her. Up close, I could see the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Thank you for meeting me," she said quietly. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "How long have you known?" "A week, maybe less. I found his phone unlocked. Saw a message from someone named L. I thought it was spam at first, but then I read the whole thread." She pulled out her phone, slid it across the table. I took screenshots before he could delete them. I scrolled through the messages. They were worse than what I'd found in Leah's backup. More detailed, more explicit. Planning meetings, talking about the future, about what they'd do when they could finally be together openly. And there, near the bottom, Ryan. "She told me he's getting promoted next month. Big bonus. We just need to wait until the money clears. Then she'll file." "Leah, I feel terrible, but you're right. We've come too far to walk away with nothing." "Ryan, after everything he's put you through, you deserve that money. We both do. Everything he's put her through." The lie was so absurd it would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. I'd never hurt Leah, never cheated, never lied, never given her a reason to doubt me. My only crime was choosing a career that required me to leave sometimes. "They're planning to take our money," Amber said, her voice hollow. "Wait until the promotion bonuses hit our accounts, then file for divorce and split everything." "I know," I said. I found the same plan in her emails. Amber leaned back, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes were red and swollen. "What are we going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? We could confront them, scream and cry, and demand explanations. We could file for divorce immediately, get lawyers, start the legal battle. We could make a scene, air everything publicly, and humiliate them. Or we could be smarter than that. "We're going to beat them at their own game," I said slowly, the plan forming as I spoke. "They want to wait for the money? Fine. Let them wait. Let them think they're winning. But while they're planning their future together, we're going to document everything. Every meeting, every message, every lie. And when the time is right, we're going to expose them in a way that destroys any chance they have of walking away with anything." Amber stared at me. "You want to set them up? I want to make sure they get exactly what they deserve. Nothing more, nothing less." She thought about it for a long moment, then reached across the table. "What do you need from me?" "Access to Ryan's schedule. Photos, messages, anything you can get without him knowing. Can you do that?" "I can do that. There's something else you should know. Leah's pregnant. I heard Ryan on the phone with her wants her to wait until after, so you can't claim the—" I'd already known, but hearing it confirmed by someone else made it real in a new way. "The baby's his." "Yes." Amber's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. Don't be. This isn't your fault." We sat there for a while longer, two people who'd been betrayed, forming an alliance built on shared pain and the desire for justice. Before we left, Amber grabbed my hand. "They think we're stupid," she said. "They think we'll just roll over and let them win." "Yeah," I agreed. "That's their first mistake. Their second mistake would be underestimating what two angry, motivated people could do when they put their minds to it." Amber became my ally, my co-conspirator, my partner in patience. Over the next few weeks, we met regularly, always in different locations, always careful not to be seen together. She'd bring me Ryan's schedule, screenshots of messages, photos she'd taken when he wasn't looking. I'd share what I'd found in Leah's digital footprint, the evidence mounting like ammunition for a battle we were preparing to win. "He's getting sloppy," Amber told me during one of our meetings at a park 40 minutes from home. She handed me a manila folder, left his email open on the home computer. I found confirmations for hotel rooms, cash withdrawals from our account. He's not even trying to hide it anymore. I flipped through the papers. Ryan had charged nearly $3,000 to their joint credit card in the past month alone. Flowers, jewelry, expensive dinners, all for my wife. "There's more," Amber said, pulling out her phone. "I installed tracking software on his cell. He doesn't know. Every text, every call, every location. It all gets backed up to my account." "That's illegal," I pointed out. "So is adultery under the UCMJ," she shot back. "If we're going to do this, we might as well do it right." She wasn't wrong. The Uniform Code of Military Justice took a hard line on infidelity, especially between service members. If we could prove Ryan's affair definitively, he wouldn't just lose his marriage. He'd lose his career, his benefits, everything he'd worked for. "I found something else," Amber continued, her voice dropping lower. "A life insurance policy. Ryan increased his coverage 3 months ago. Doubled it, actually. Named Leah as a secondary beneficiary." That made me pause. Why would he do that? "I don't know, but it's weird, right? Why add your mistress to your insurance?" It was more than weird. It suggested a level of planning, of commitment, that went beyond a simple affair. Ryan was building a future with Leah, one where he'd already figured out how to financially provide for her. "There's something else you need to know," Amber said, her tone shifting. "Your promotion. The bonus money. Leah knows exactly when it's supposed to deposit. Ryan told me she's been planning the divorce timeline around it." "When?" "Next month. She's going to wait 3 days after the deposit clears, then file paperwork claiming irreconcilable differences. She's got it all mapped out. She'll ask for half of everything, plus spousal support, since you were the primary earner. With the timing, she'll be able to claim the bonus as marital assets." My jaw clenched. The bonus was substantial, a reward for my service, my sacrifices. Money I'd earned while being shot at in a desert. And Leah was planning to take half of it, then run off with the man who'd betrayed me. "We need to move the money," I said, "before she can file." Amber shook her head. "If you move it now, it'll look like you're hiding assets. The court won't like that. You'll end up having to give her more, just out of spite." "Then what do we do?" She leaned forward, and I saw something hard and determined in her eyes. "We let them make their move. But we make ours first. We expose everything, the affair, the planning, the betrayal. We get it all on record before she can file. That way, when it goes to court, she's the one who looks like the villain." "How?" Amber smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. "We catch them together, red-handed, in a way that's so obvious, so undeniable, that no lawyer or judge could possibly ignore it." She pulled up a map on her phone, zooming in on the motel Leah had been visiting. "They meet here every Wednesday afternoon. I've confirmed it through Ryan's GPS. He tells me he's doing inventory at the base, but he's really here, with her for hours." "We could just show up," I suggested. "Walk in and catch them." "Too confrontational. They'll deny everything, claim we're overreacting. We need proof that's ironclad. Photos, video, witnesses. Something that can't be explained away." "How do we get that?" "Leave that to me," Amber said. "I have an idea. But I'm going to need your help." Over the next hour, she laid out her plan. It was risky, potentially illegal, and would require perfect timing. But if it worked, it would give us everything we needed to destroy any sympathy or support Leah and Ryan might claim. "One more thing," Amber said as we were preparing to leave. Leah scheduled a doctor's appointment for next week, OB/GYN. She's going to get an ultrasound, find out how far along she is. How do you know that? Ryan told me. Well, not me directly. He told someone on the phone and I overheard. She hesitated. He's excited about it, Marcus. He actually wants this baby, wants to play house with your wife and pretend like they didn't destroy 2 marriages to get there. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. It was one thing to have an affair. It was another to plan a whole life together, to bring a child into it, while actively scheming to take from the people they'd vowed to love. We're going to stop them, I said quietly. Both of them. Yes, Amber agreed. We are. As I drove home that day, I thought about justice and revenge, about the difference between the two. Justice was about fairness, about consequences matching actions. Revenge was personal, emotional, sometimes petty. What we were planning was somewhere in between. We weren't just trying to hurt them. We were trying to make sure they faced real consequences for what they'd done. That they couldn't walk away unscathed, couldn't profit from their betrayal. When I got home, Leah was cooking dinner, humming to herself in the kitchen. She smiled when she saw me, kissed my cheek like a dutiful wife. "How was your day?" she asked. "Productive," I said honestly. "Very productive." She had no idea just how productive it had been. Leah started trying to fix things. That's what made the whole situation almost darkly comedic. She'd been planning my downfall for months, sleeping with my colleague, carrying his child, scheming to take my money and run. And now, sensing that something was off, she decided to play the role of the devoted wife. She cooked my favorite meals, wore the perfume I'd bought her for our last anniversary, touched my arm when we talked, laughed at my jokes, asked about my day with what seemed like genuine interest. To anyone watching, we looked like a couple reconnecting after a difficult separation. I played along, smiled back, complimented her cooking, pretended not to notice when she checked her phone every 5 minutes or made excuses to take calls in another room. I was patient, methodical, watching her perform this charade while knowing exactly what was happening behind the curtain. One evening, she suggested we go out to dinner. "Like a real date," she said. "Just the 2 of us. We haven't done that in forever." "Sure," I agreed. "Sounds great." She chose the restaurant, a nice Italian place downtown. We sat across from each other, candles flickering between us, and she reached for my hand. "I know things have been hard," she said, her eyes glistening with what might have been genuine tears. "The distance, the time apart. But I want you to know I'm committed to making this work, to making us work." I squeezed her hand gently. "I appreciate that." "I was thinking," she continued, "maybe we could go to counseling, couples therapy, work through everything that's built up." The audacity was impressive. She wanted to drag me to therapy while pregnant with another man's child, while actively planning to divorce me for my money. "That's a good idea," I said. "Let me know when you want to schedule something." Relief washed over her face. She probably thought she'd bought more time, convinced me that everything was fine. What she didn't know was that every word of this conversation was being recorded. I'd started wearing a small audio device, no bigger than a shirt button, that captured everything. Later that week, she suggested we go shopping together. "For the house," she explained. "I want to redecorate, make things feel fresh and new." We spent an afternoon at furniture stores, looking at couches and chairs we'd never buy. She leaned into me, laughing, taking selfies of us together that she immediately posted to social media with captions about reconnecting and stronger than ever. The performance was elaborate. Her friends commented with heart emojis and supportive messages. My family saw the posts and called to tell me how happy they were that things were working out. Nobody knew the truth except Amber and me. But then something unexpected happened. I came home one afternoon to find Leah crying at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands. For a moment, I almost felt sympathy. Almost. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting down next to her. She wiped her eyes. "I feel so guilty, Marcus. About everything. About how I treated you while you were gone. About how distant I've been. I waited, letting her continue. I should have been stronger, more supportive. Instead, I was selfish and focused on my own feelings. She looked up at me, and the pain in her eyes seemed genuine. I don't deserve you. For the first time since finding that pregnancy test, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, she actually felt remorse. If somewhere under all the lies and betrayal, there was still the woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved. Then her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and I saw the name on the screen before she could grab it, R. She silenced it quickly, but not before I saw the preview of the message. Can't stop thinking about you. Tomorrow at the usual place? The moment of doubt evaporated. This wasn't remorse. This was guilt at being caught between two lives, two men, two versions of herself. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she had to keep pretending. You should get that, I said calmly. It's nothing, just work stuff. Right. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the guest room. She'd stopped questioning why I slept there, probably relieved to have the bed to herself, and thought about the plan Amber and I had set in motion. Everything was in place. The evidence was compiled. The timeline was set. But I'd found one more piece of the puzzle that afternoon while Leah was out. A folder in her desk drawer labeled Financial Planning. Inside were statements from a savings account I didn't know existed. She'd been siphoning money from our joint account for months, small amounts, never enough to raise suspicion, and depositing it into this secret account. Over $20,000, saved up and hidden away. There was also a loan application. She'd tried to take out a personal loan in my name, using my military ID and social security number. The application had been denied, but the attempt was there, documented in black and white. She wasn't just planning to take half of what we had together. She was planning to take everything she could, by any means necessary. I photographed every document, added them to my growing file of evidence. Then I did something I'd been avoiding. I called my promotion officer and asked about the status of my bonus. Should deposit next week, he told me cheerfully. Congratulations again, Sergeant Hayes. Well deserved. Next week. That meant Leah would file for divorce the following week, right on schedule. And if I didn't stop her, she'd walk away with half of everything I'd earned, plus spousal support, plus whatever else her lawyer could squeeze out of me. The thought didn't make me angry anymore. It made me focused. The ultrasound appointment was scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. I knew because Amber had seen it on Ryan's calendar. He'd blocked out 2 hours to go with Leah, listed it as personal time. The fact that they were attending together, openly planning for this child while still married to other people, showed just how far they thought they could go without consequences. I took the day off work, told Leah I had to go to the base for administrative paperwork. She seemed relieved, probably glad to have me out of the house while she prepared for her appointment with Ryan. Instead of going to the base, I met Amber at a diner 3 towns over. I got the information, she said, sliding an envelope across the table. The clinic, the time, everything. I opened it. Inside was a copy of Leah's appointment confirmation, along with a visitor parking pass. How did you get this? Ryan printed it out at home, left it on his desk. She smiled grimly. He's getting careless. Thinks I'm too stupid to notice. What's the plan? Simple. We're both going to be there. Not to confront them, just to document. I'll be in the waiting room, you'll be in the parking lot. When they arrive together, when they go in together, we'll have photographic proof they're not just having an affair, they're building a life together. It was risky. If they saw us, everything would blow up prematurely. But the documentation would be worth it. Visual evidence that Leah's pregnancy was the result of an ongoing, committed relationship with another man, not a one-time mistake. Tuesday came. I parked 3 spaces away from Ryan's Charger, low enough in my seat to avoid being seen. At exactly 2 o'clock, they pulled into the lot together in Leah's car. They sat for a moment before getting out, talking, Ryan's hand on her stomach. Then he leaned over and kissed her. Long, tender, the kind of kiss you give someone you love. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. I see them, taking photos now. They got out of the car, Ryan's arm around Leah's shoulders as they walked toward the entrance. They looked happy, excited, like a normal couple about to see their baby for the first time. I took photos through my windshield, the car, the license plate, the two of them walking together. Time-stamped, geo-tagged, undeniable. After they went inside, I waited. Amber texted me updates. They're checking in together. He's listed as the father on the paperwork. They're holding hands in the waiting room. An hour later, they emerged. Leah was holding a series of ultrasound photos, showing them to Ryan, both of them smiling. He kissed her again, right there in the parking lot, and I captured it all. As they drove away, Amber came out and got in my truck. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. 8 weeks, she said. I heard them talking to the nurse. The baby is 8 weeks along, which means she got pregnant right after you left. The timeline made sense. I'd deployed in March. It was now early November. 8 weeks put the conception date right around mid-September, about a month after I'd left. He told me last night he was working late, Amber continued, her voice breaking. Said he had inventory duty. Instead, he was holding her hand while they looked at pictures of their baby. I didn't know what to say. There was no comfort to offer that wouldn't sound hollow. We finished this now, Amber said finally, wiping her eyes. No more waiting. We have everything we need. Not yet, I said. There's one more thing. That evening, I took Leah out to dinner again. Another restaurant, another performance. She was glowing, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. Pregnancy suited her, even if the circumstances were toxic. I have something to tell you, she said halfway through the meal. Something important. Here it comes, I thought. She's going to confess. Or maybe she's going to lie some more. I've been thinking a lot about us, she continued. About our future. And I think we should try to have a baby. The audacity stole my breath. She was 8 weeks pregnant with another man's child, and she was suggesting we try for a baby together. Really? I managed to say. Yes. I mean, we've been married for 3 years. It's time, don't you think? We could start trying right away. She reached across the table and took my hand, and I had to fight every instinct not to pull away. She was going to trap me, make me think the baby was mine if I agreed to sleep with her now. That way, even when the truth came out, she could claim confusion about paternity, drag things out, make the divorce even messier. That's a big step, I said carefully. Let's think about it. Make sure we're ready. She looked disappointed but nodded. Of course, we should plan it properly. When we got home, she tried to initiate intimacy. Kissed me, pulled me close, whispered that she'd missed me. I made excuses, exhausted from the day, not feeling well, wanted to take things slow. She seemed frustrated, but didn't push. That night, lying in the guest room, I received an email from my lawyer, the one I'd quietly retained 2 weeks earlier. Everything was ready. The divorce paperwork was drafted, the financial statements were prepared, the evidence was compiled into a comprehensive file that would leave no doubt about what had happened. Just say the word, the email read, and we'll file. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to do it immediately, to end this charade and move on with my life. But another part knew that timing mattered. The promotion bonus was depositing in 3 days. If I filed now, it would look reactionary, emotional. If I waited until after the money hit our account, let Leah think her plan was working, then filed first, she'd be blindsided. And more importantly, if I waited, Ryan and Leah would have one more chance to meet at their motel. One more chance to be caught together in a way that would make their affair undeniable, not just to us, but to everyone who mattered. I typed out a response. Give me 1 more week, then we move. The reply came seconds later. Understood. Standing by. 1 more week of pretending. 1 more week of playing the fool. And then everything would change. Wednesday afternoon, the day Ryan and Leah always met, the day we'd been preparing for. Amber and I had planned every detail. She'd convinced Ryan she was taking the kids to her mother's house for the day, giving him a convenient alibi to slip away. I'd told Leah I had appointments at the VA hospital, would be gone most of the afternoon. Neither of them had any reason to suspect today would be different from any of the dozens of other Wednesdays they'd spent together. The motel was called the Pine Brook Inn, a rundown place off the highway that charged by the hour and didn't ask questions. I'd scouted it days earlier, figured out the sight lines and camera blind spots. Room 117, that's where they always went. Ground floor, corner unit, parking spot right outside the door. Amber and I arrived separately, parked in different sections of the lot. I had a camera with a telephoto lens, borrowed from a friend who did wildlife photography. Amber had her phone and a small video camera. We were positioned with clear views of room 117 from different angles. At 2:15, Ryan's Charger pulled into the lot. He sat for a moment, checking his phone, then got out and walked to the door. Used his own key to let himself in. He'd been here so many times they'd given him a key card. "He's inside," Amber texted me. "Alone." We waited. 15 minutes later, Leah's car appeared. She parked next to Ryan's, checked her reflection in the rearview mirror, applied fresh lipstick. Then she got out, looked around to make sure no one was watching, missing us completely, and knocked on the door. Ryan opened it immediately, pulled her inside, kissed her before the door even closed. I started taking photos, the cars side by side, the license plates visible, the timestamp on the camera showing date and time, the GPS coordinates embedded in the metadata, every detail documented. "This is it," Amber whispered. We were connected via Bluetooth earpieces, able to communicate without being obvious. "We have them." "Wait," I said. "Let's make sure we have everything." We sat there for an hour, documenting their vehicles, taking video of the motel exterior, establishing the timeline. Other guests came and went, but room 117 stayed occupied. Then I saw the manager come out of the office, a heavy-set man in his 60s carrying a clipboard. This was the part I'd arranged, the part that would seal everything. 2 days earlier, I'd come to this motel and talked to that manager, told him I was a private investigator working an infidelity case. Showed him fake credentials I'd made using Photoshop and a laminator I'd bought at Staples. Asked if he'd be willing to provide records of room 117's occupancy for the past 6 months. Said I'd pay him $200 for his cooperation. He'd agreed. Said he'd seen enough cheaters come through his motel to have no sympathy for them. Today, he was bringing me those records. I met him at the edge of the lot. He handed over a manila envelope stuffed with printed receipts, each showing the same credit card number, Ryan's, paying for the same room, over and over again. 23 times in 6 months. "That fella in the Charger," the manager said, nodding toward Ryan's car. "He's a regular, every Wednesday like clockwork, brings the same woman every time. Used to bring her in through the back, but lately they just walk right in the front. Would you be willing to testify to that if needed?" He shrugged. "Sure. Don't matter to me." I gave him the cash, shook his hand, and he walked back to his office. "Did you get that?" I asked Amber through the earpiece. Every word. I was recording. At 4 o'clock, the door to room 117 opened. Ryan stepped out first, looking relaxed, satisfied. Leah followed, straightening her clothes, running fingers through her hair. They stood in the doorway and talked for a moment, and I heard Amber's sharp intake of breath. "She's showing him the ultrasound photos," Amber whispered. "I can see them from here." I zoomed in with my camera. Sure enough, Leah had pulled the black and white images from her purse and was pointing to them, smiling. Ryan put his hand on her still flat stomach, and they both laughed about something. Click, click, click. I captured it all. They kissed goodbye, a long, lingering kiss that spoke of promises and plans. Then Leah got in her car and drove away. Ryan waited a few minutes before following. Amber and I stayed put until they were both gone. Then we met in the middle of the parking lot and I handed her a USB drive. "Everything's on there. I said. Photos, videos, audio recordings. GPS data showing they've both been here multiple times. The motel records. All of it. She took the drive with shaking hands. What now? Now we send it. We'd prepared a distribution list. Family members, close friends, commanding officers at the base. Not social media. That would be too public, too messy. But a targeted release to the people who mattered. The people whose opinions would actually affect Ryan and Leah's lives. Are you sure? Amber asked. Once we do this, there's no taking it back. I thought about Leah touching my face at dinner, lying about wanting a baby. Thought about Ryan shaking my hand when I got back from deployment, asking how I was doing, all while knowing he'd spent the last 6 months sleeping with my wife. Thought about the scheme to take my promotion money, the secret bank account, the loan application in my name. I'm sure, I said. We sat in my truck and composed the email together. Short, factual, devastating. To our friends and family, this is a difficult message to send, but we feel you deserve to know the truth. For the past 6 months, Ryan Cleaver and Leah Hayes have been conducting an affair. They have met regularly at the Pinebrook Inn while Marcus was deployed overseas. Leah is currently pregnant with Ryan's child. Attached you will find photographic and documentary evidence of their relationship. We are both filing for divorce and requesting privacy during this difficult time. Marcus Hayes and Amber Cleaver. We attached a compressed folder containing selected photos, enough to prove the affair without being gratuitously explicit. Then we added the motel receipts and the manager's written statement. Amber's finger hovered over the send button. Last chance to back out. Send it, I said. She pressed the button. The email went out to 43 recipients simultaneously. Family members, friends, Ryan's commanding officer, Leah's workplace, everyone who would care, everyone who would spread the word. The bomb had been dropped. Now we just had to wait for the fallout. The first response came within 10 minutes. Leah's mother called my phone 6 times in a row. I didn't answer. Then Amber's phone started ringing. Her mother, her sister, her best friend. She turned it off. We sat in a restaurant parking lot, watching the sun go down, waiting for the chaos to unfold. My phone kept buzzing, texts, calls, voicemails stacking up faster than I could clear them. I turned off notifications and set the phone face down on the dashboard. Do you think they know yet? Amber asked. Oh, they know. Around 6 o'clock, I got a text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. You humiliated her for no reason. Probably one of Leah's friends who'd seen the evidence and decided to shoot the messenger. Then Ryan's commanding officer called me directly. I answered. Sergeant Hayes, this is Colonel Morrison. I need you to come to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Yes, sir. And Hayes, bring everything you have. All evidence, all documentation. This is serious. Understood, sir. He hung up without another word. The military didn't take infidelity lightly, especially between service members. Ryan's career was about to implode. My phone rang again. This time it was Leah. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. Marcus, what the hell did you do? People are calling me, sending me screenshots. Oh my God, you sent that to my boss? To my mother? How could you do this? Call me back right now. We need to talk about this like adults. Like adults. The irony was almost funny. The next voicemail was different. Leah's voice was smaller, broken. Please, Marcus, please pick up. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. Just give me a chance to talk to you. I deleted it. Amber's phone rang. Ryan calling. She stared at it, then answered on speaker. How could you? Ryan's voice was shaking with rage. You went through my phone. You spied on me. You sent private information to everyone we know. Private? Amber's voice was cold. You mean like the private time you spent with Marcus's wife? That kind of private? You had no right. I had every right. You're my husband. You took vows. This is going to ruin my career. Do you understand that? The military doesn't. That's not my problem anymore. Amber said, and hung up. We looked at each other, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something like satisfaction in her eyes. That felt good, she said. Yeah, I agreed. It did. By the next morning, the story had spread through the entire base. I got sympathetic looks from fellow soldiers, handshakes from sergeants who'd heard what happened. Someone had leaked the photos to a military gossip group online, and suddenly hundreds of people knew about Ryan and Leah's affair. The meeting with Colonel Morrison was brief and professional. I handed over my documentation, copies, not originals, and he reviewed everything carefully. This is comprehensive, he said finally. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Sergeant Cleaver will be dealt with appropriately. What happens now? I asked. He'll face a formal inquiry. Likely an Article 15, possibly more serious charges depending on the investigation. At minimum, he's looking at loss of rank, pay reduction, and probable discharge. I nodded. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about consequences. When I got home, I found Leah's car in the driveway. My stomach tightened. I'd been avoiding her, staying with a friend from the base. But eventually, we'd have to face each other. She was sitting on the front steps, eyes red and swollen. When she saw me, she stood up quickly. Marcus, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. Yes, there is. You don't understand. I understand that you've been sleeping with Ryan for 6 months. I understand that you're pregnant with his baby. I understand that you were planning to wait for my promotion money before filing for divorce. Did I miss anything? Her face went white. How did you... I'm not stupid, Leah. I never was. You just thought I was. It wasn't like that, she said desperately. It started as just, we were lonely, and you were gone so long, and things just happened. Things just happened, I repeated. 23 times at the same motel, planning a future together. That doesn't just happen. That's a choice, a lot of choices. She started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. Mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. This was calculated betrayal. What about forgiveness? She pleaded. What about our marriage? Don't I deserve a second chance? You were going to take my money and leave me anyway, I said flatly. So no, you don't deserve anything. I pulled out a folder from my truck and handed it to her. These are divorce papers. I'm filing on grounds of adultery. The evidence is already submitted to the court. You have 30 days to respond, but I suggest you just sign them. Marcus, I've moved all the money from our joint accounts into my personal account. The house is in my name only. You can check the deed. Your name was never added. I've changed the locks. Your stuff is in storage unit 447 at the facility on Highway 80. The first month is paid for. She looked at the papers, then at me, and I saw the moment she realized she'd lost. Completely. There would be no big payout, no spousal support, no half of my promotion bonus. I'd moved faster than she'd anticipated, and her entire plan had collapsed. This is cruel, she whispered. No, I said. This is fair. I walked past her into my house now, not ours, and closed the door. The story went viral in our community. Not national news, nothing like that. But in military circles, in our town, among everyone who knew us, it became the story everyone was talking about. The sergeant who'd been deployed, the wife who'd cheated with his colleague, the pregnancy that exposed everything. Leah tried to control the narrative. She posted a long statement on social media about complicated relationships, and 2 sides to every story, and judgment without understanding. Her friends rallied around her in the comments, calling me cruel and vindictive for exposing her publicly. But then someone leaked more of the evidence. The ultrasound photos where she was clearly showing them to Ryan, the text messages about waiting for my promotion money, the motel receipts. Every time she tried to paint herself as the victim, another piece of truth emerged that proved otherwise. Her employer, a marketing firm downtown, let her go. They cited conduct unbecoming and breach of company values. Legally questionable, probably, But she didn't fight it. She couldn't. Everyone in that office had seen the evidence. They knew what she'd done. Ryan got hit harder. The military didn't mess around with adultery cases, especially when they were this well-documented. He received an Article 15, was reduced in rank from staff sergeant to sergeant, lost 2 months' pay, and was transferred to a different base 3 states away. His security clearance was suspended pending further review, which effectively ended his career trajectory. Amber filed for divorce the same day I did. She asked for full custody of the kids and primary ownership of their house. Ryan didn't contest. He couldn't. His legal position was indefensible. The hardest part was watching Leah spiral. I'm not a sadistic person. I didn't enjoy seeing her fall apart, but I also couldn't find sympathy for the consequences of her own choices. She moved in with her sister temporarily, but that arrangement fell apart after 2 weeks. The sister, Megan, who'd tried to warn me, couldn't handle the drama. Leah then tried staying with friends, but one by one, they distanced themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with the scandal. She tried to reach out to me several times. Emails, texts, showing up at places she knew I'd be. Each message was a variation of the same theme. She was sorry, she'd made mistakes. Couldn't we work this out for the sake of what we'd once had? I never responded. But then she tried something different. She claimed the baby was mine. Posted on social media that the timeline was uncertain and that I'd abandoned her when she needed me most. It was a desperate play, easily disproven, but it got enough attention that I had to address it. My lawyer drafted a statement. Ms. Hayes' pregnancy has been confirmed through medical records to be 8 weeks along as of November 1st, putting conception at approximately September 15th. Sergeant Hayes was deployed overseas from March through October and had no contact with Ms. Hayes during that time. Furthermore, photographic evidence exists of Ms. Hayes and Mr. Cleaver attending prenatal appointments together. Any claims regarding paternity are factually impossible and legally actionable as defamation. We released it alongside a timeline showing my deployment dates and the pregnancy timeline. The comparison was undeniable. Conception had occurred weeks after I'd left the country. Her claim collapsed immediately. The people who'd been defending her, saying I should step up and support my child, went silent. Even her own mother stopped returning her calls for a while. Ryan, facing his own ruin, tried to claim he'd been manipulated. Said Leah had pursued him, that he'd been in a vulnerable place and she'd taken advantage. It was cowardly and transparent. The text messages showed their relationship had been mutual, enthusiastic, planned. Neither of them could accept responsibility. They kept trying to find angles, excuses, ways to make themselves look less guilty. But the evidence didn't lie, and everyone who saw it knew exactly what had happened. My promotion came through officially. The bonus deposited into my account only, now. $15,000 I'd earned through years of service and sacrifice, money that would have been Leah's to claim if she'd waited another week to execute her plan. She found out through mutual friends and sent me a bitter message. You planned this. You knew all along and you set me up. I didn't respond, but she was right. I had known. I had planned. I'd outmaneuvered her at every turn, stayed 3 steps ahead while she thought she was winning. The final blow came from an unexpected place. Ryan's wife, Amber, was granted full custody of their children along with the house and 70% of Ryan's retirement benefits. The judge, reviewing the evidence of Ryan's affair and his financial planning with Leah, determined he'd shown reckless disregard for his family's well-being. Ryan was left with almost nothing. A lower rank, a transfer to a base where everyone knew his story, and no real path forward in the military. He'd thrown away his career, his family, and his future for an affair that had crumbled the moment it was exposed. Leah, pregnant and alone, had to move 3 hours away to live with her mother. Her social media presence, once full of carefully curated images of success and happiness, went dark. She deleted everything, disappeared from public view. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd had the baby, a boy, that Ryan had no involvement, had signed away his parental rights to avoid child support obligations, that she was working retail to make ends meet. I felt nothing hearing that. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just nothing. She'd made her choices. These were the consequences. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I got my transfer approved. The base in Savannah held too many memories, too many people who knew the story. I needed a fresh start. I chose San Diego. Coastal base, warm weather, 3,000 miles from everything that had happened. I sold the house, got a good price, kept every penny, and bought a small 2-bedroom bungalow 3 blocks from the beach. It was modest, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Completely, undeniably mine. The ocean helped. Every morning I'd wake up, make coffee, and walk to the beach to watch the sunrise. The rhythm of the waves, the endless horizon, it gave me perspective. What had happened wasn't the end of my story. It was just a chapter. A painful one, but not the defining one. I started running again, something I'd loved before but had let slide during the chaos. 5 miles every morning along the beach, pushing my body until my mind went quiet. The physical exhaustion was therapeutic. Work was good. My new unit didn't know the whole story, just the basics. Divorced, fresh start. They didn't treat me differently. I was just another soldier doing his job. On weekends, I'd explore the city. Farmers markets, hole-in-the-wall restaurants, hiking trails in the hills. I was learning to be alone without being lonely, to enjoy my own company without the constant noise of someone else's betrayal echoing in my head. Amber called occasionally. She'd moved too, different state, new job, custody of her kids. We'd check in with each other, compare notes on how we were rebuilding our lives. There was an understanding between us, a shared experience that didn't need explanation. "You doing okay?" she'd ask. "Getting there?" I'd say. "You?" Same. One Saturday, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Marcus." It was Megan, Leah's sister. "I hope it's okay that I'm calling." "What do you need?" "Nothing. I wanted you to know that Leah had her baby. A boy. She named him James." I waited, unsure why she was telling me this. "She's struggling," Megan continued, "working 2 jobs, living with Mom. The baby has some health issues, nothing serious but expensive. She's drowning in bills. And I thought you should know. That's all. Megan, I appreciate the update, but whatever Leah's going through, it's not my responsibility. She made her choices. So did Ryan. They don't get to call for help now." "I know, you're right. She sighed. "She's still my sister. I had to try. I understand, but my answer is no. To whatever she's asking, the answer is no." After I hung up, I sat on my back porch and thought about it. Leah was struggling, a single mother, broke, alone. Part of me, the part that had loved her once, felt a twinge of something. Not sympathy exactly, but awareness. She was a human being. She was suffering. But then I remembered the pregnancy test in the trash, the lies, the motel receipts, the plan to take my money. The way she'd looked at Ryan on that porch, like he was her whole world. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. And I was finally, truly free. A week later, I got a different call. This one I was expecting. "Marcus, it's Amber. I'm in San Diego for work. Any chance you want to grab coffee?" "Yeah," I said, surprising myself. "I'd like that." We met at a cafe near the waterfront. She looked different, lighter somehow. Her hair was shorter. She'd lost the dark circles under her eyes. She smiled when she saw me, a real smile that reached her eyes. "You look good," she said. "So do you." We talked for hours, about our lives, our jobs, our kids. She had hers for the summer. We laughed about stupid things, shared stories about learning to be single again, commiserated about the awkwardness of starting over. When the sun started to set, We walked to the beach together. Stood there watching the water turn gold and orange, peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Exposing everything the way we did?" "No," I said honestly. "They earned their consequences. We just made sure they received them. Sometimes I wonder if we went too far. They were going to destroy us. Take our money, our dignity, everything we'd worked for. We just beat them to it." She nodded slowly. "You're right. I know you're right. It's just hard sometimes seeing how it all played out." "Hard for them, you mean?" "Yeah." We stood in silence for a while. Then Amber reached over and took my hand. Not romantically, at least not yet. Just a connection. Two people who'd survived the same storm and come out the other side. "Thank you," she said, "for being in this with me. I don't think I could have done it alone." "Same," I said. "We made a good team." We did. She had to catch a flight that evening, but we exchanged numbers, promised to stay in touch. As I watched her drive away, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not for a relationship necessarily, but for the future in general. For the possibility that good things could still happen. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer and watched the stars come out. Somewhere across the country, Leah was probably struggling to get her baby to sleep, wondering how her life had ended up here. Somewhere else, Ryan was probably working a job he hated, trying to rebuild a reputation that was permanently damaged. I didn't wish them well, but I didn't wish them harm either. I just wished them away from my life entirely. And they were. Finally, completely, they were. The first year in San Diego flew by. I settled into a routine that felt right. Work, running, the occasional weekend trip down the coast. I made new friends, people who knew me as I was now, not as the guy whose wife had cheated during deployment. My career stabilized. The promotion I'd fought for meant new responsibilities, better pay, a sense of purpose I'd been missing. I was good at my job, always had been. Now I could focus on it without the distraction of a failing marriage. Amber visited twice more. Each time felt easier, more natural. We'd have dinner, walk along the beach, talk about everything and nothing. There was something building between us, slow and cautious, but neither of us was in a rush. We'd both been burned. We both needed time. On one visit, she brought a letter with her. "This came to my old address," she said, handing it to me. "It's from Leah. I thought you should know." I looked at the envelope, my name written in Leah's handwriting. It was thick, multiple pages probably. I turned it over in my hands, considering. "Are you going to read it?" Amber asked. "No," I said. And I meant it. I walked over to the fire pit in my backyard, the one I'd used for grilling and evening gatherings, struck a match, held the flame to the corner of the envelope and watched it catch. The paper curled and blackened, Leah's words turning to ash before I could read them. Whatever apology or explanation or plea for forgiveness she'd written, it didn't matter. That chapter of my life was closed. Amber watched the letter burn, then smiled. "Good," she said simply. We sat there as the sun set. Two survivors of betrayal who'd found something unexpected. Peace. Not just the absence of conflict, but genuine, hard-won peace. The kind that comes from knowing you handled a bad situation with integrity, that you didn't let someone else's cruelty make you cruel in return. Life moved forward. I got another promotion. Amber started seeing someone, a teacher from her daughter's school. Nice guy from what she told me. I was happy for her. We'd helped each other through the worst, and now we were both finding our way to something better. I started dating too, eventually. Nothing serious, just dinner and movies with women who didn't come with baggage or betrayal. It was nice, simple. No drama, no secrets, no lies. I heard through the grapevine that Leah had moved again, this time to another state entirely. That Ryan had left the military, was working construction somewhere in the Midwest. They weren't together, That had fallen apart almost immediately after everything came out. Whatever they'd imagined they had wasn't strong enough to survive reality. I didn't follow their lives closely, didn't check social media or ask mutual friends for updates. They were strangers now, people I'd once known who'd chosen paths that diverged from mine. On the 2-year anniversary of finding that pregnancy test, I stood on my beach at sunrise and thought about how far I'd come. From the shock and betrayal, through the anger and planning, to the execution and aftermath. It had been brutal, painful, but I'd survived. More than survived, I'd won. Not in a petty, vengeful way, but in the way that mattered. I'd kept my dignity. I'd protected my future. I'd refused to let someone else's choices define my worth. The soldier who'd come home to betrayal wasn't the same man who stood on this beach now. I was harder in some ways, more cautious. But I was also stronger. More certain of what I deserved, and unwilling to settle for less. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. "Thinking about you today. Hope you're doing well." I smiled and typed back, "Doing great. You?" "Same. Talk soon." Short, simple, honest. That's what my life was now. No hidden meanings, no secret agendas. Just straightforward communication between people who'd learned the hard way that honesty matters. I finished my coffee, watched a few more waves roll in, then headed back to my house. I had plans that day. A hike with some guys from the base, maybe grab lunch after. Normal things, good things. As I walked up from the beach, I passed a young couple taking pictures, laughing together. They looked happy, in love, wrapped up in each other. I felt no bitterness watching them, no cynicism, just hope that they'd treat each other better than Leah and Ryan had treated us. Later that week, I got an email from a lawyer. Leah had apparently tried to file for post-divorce modifications, claiming financial hardship and requesting support payments. My lawyer shut it down immediately with our evidence file and the original divorce decree. She'd signed away her right to any claims. It was over. "She's desperate," my lawyer wrote, "but she has no case. This is the last gasp of someone who lost and can't accept it." I didn't respond to Leah, didn't acknowledge the attempt. Just let my lawyer handle it and moved on with my day. She wasn't entitled to a response. She wasn't entitled to anything from me. That Sunday, I cleaned out my garage and found a box of old photos. Me and Leah on our wedding day, both of us young and naive, and convinced we'd make it forever. I stared at that photo for a long time, trying to remember what I'd felt that day. The optimism, the certainty, the love. It felt like looking at strangers. I threw the box away. Not angrily, not ceremonially, just put it in the trash with the rest of the things I didn't need anymore. Then I went inside, made lunch, and watched a baseball game. Normal, peaceful, mine. 3 years after everything fell apart, I stood on a podium at the base receiving a commendation for my service. My family was there, my mother, my brother, a few close friends. Amber had sent flowers with a card. "Proud of you. You earned this." I looked out at the crowd and realized something. I was happy. Genuinely, fully happy. Not because I'd destroyed Leah and Ryan, though they'd faced consequences they'd earned, but because I'd rebuilt myself, created a life worth living, refused to let betrayal define me. The soldier who'd found that pregnancy test in the trash had been devastated, lost, unsure of who he was without his marriage. The man standing on that podium knew exactly who he was. Someone strong enough to survive betrayal, smart enough to protect himself, and wise enough to know that the best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was living well. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done in Marcus's place? Leave your comment, like this video, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you want another powerful story, click on the video appearing to your left.